Hey PM, what's up?
Oh, hey dude. What's up with you?
Oh, you know, nothing much. Just trying to forget the suffering and pain of existing, and also forgetting that the pandemic is a thing.
I hear you, man. I hear you. That's why I'm reading this poetry collection, A Fire in My Head by Ben Okri, to also forget the pain and suffering of existence and trying to forget the pandemic is a thing.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds really cool. I'll leave you to it. Enjoy.
Thanks, dude. Back to poetry. That is a metaphor.
4 to 6 days later.
Hey PM, how's the book? Oh my god. What happened? What happened?
Beta. वो क्या कहते हो? पोएट्री वाला किताब. हाँ वो इतनी खूब थी कि वो मर गई.
What? No, that's ridiculous. You can't die from reading poetry.
That's right. You can't die from reading poetry. And that's why I need to tell everyone to read this book. To the bookshelf. Back to normality, I guess. Oh well, basically, we're in the room with the bookshelf. I hope you guys enjoyed that intro. I had a lot of fun filming it, in case you couldn't tell. But hopefully it's done a good job of introducing what we're going to be talking about today, and that is of course this bad boy of a poetry collection, A Fire in My Head, Poems for the Dawn by Ben Okri. It's published by Head of Zeus and is out now. Don't worry, fingers crossed, you won't die when you read it, but you will probably have your mind blown, which is, you know, basically the same thing. So, who is Ben Okri? Now, for those of you who don't know, Ben Okri is a Nigerian writer, poet, essayist, basically any sort of writing, and he's done it, and he's very critically acclaimed. In 1991, he won the Booker Prize for fiction for his novel The Famished Road, which is actually over here, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. And he has an extremely unique style, and he's been compared to people like Salman Rushdie and Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and it's very magical, realist, and postmodern, if those words mean anything to you. And it is precisely this unique style that is what drew me in to The Famished Road, and also to this poetry collection. Ben Okri's style. So the first time I encountered Ben Okri was with, as you guessed it, The Famished Road, and my life looked a little more like this. And I was writing my dissertation on this novel because, well, as a second text as part of my dissertation, and my supervisor recommended it to me, and oh my goodness, it is amazing. It is trippy in the best way possible. I won't give too many spoilers, but essentially it is set in a Nigerian ghetto, and you see the world through the eyes of a spirit child, or an abiku. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, and it's set in this sort of like spiritual world, and also this like political turmoil, and it's just so beautifully written. I don't even have the words to describe it. And it is really what got me through the first lockdown, because that's when I had to write my dissertation, because it was so like it absorbed me so much that I wasn't even thinking about whatever was happening in the real world, which is good because I didn't want to, because I had to write my dissertation. But yeah, and I think that sort of like blending of the spiritual and the political is Okri's style. It grounds you in, you know, the world of mythology and magic, whilst drawing you into the present moment and into these, you know, important political events. and saying, look, this is what humanity has done. This is a bad thing, and you need to find that like spirit and soul within you to remedy it. What I love most about Okri's style is that it's grandiose without being pretentious, and if you read poetry, you know that is a very difficult combination to find. When you read these poems, you know they're trying to tell you something important without them using like overly complex metaphors or like well thought out rhyme schemes. I mean, there are rhyme schemes, but essentially it's not like overpowering. And the message still comes across. Okri isn't trying to be a poet. He's trying to tell you something through poetry, and there is a big difference. Because in my opinion, that is good poetry, when it can say something big without having to use very many words. On Ben Okri's website, it says he thinks of himself as primarily a poet, and he maintains that his artistic response to life expresses itself most naturally through poetry. And you definitely see this shine through in the collection. His work, like the way he writes, feels so natural, even when he's writing about things that he's never experienced on a personal level or never been able to experience, like the journey of becoming and being a mother, or the conceptualization of liberty and how everyone views freedom, because obviously he's not experienced that. What is the book about? So at this point you guys are probably wondering, what is this collection actually about though? And on the surface, it's a collection of new and old poems by Ben Okri that have been collated into this. But I think the subtitle explains this best, right? It's a fire in my head, Poems for the Dawn. And these are poems that capture those moments of beginnings. Those moments where we knew things had to start changing again, like the fire of Notre Dame or Grenfell Tower, but also more inward-looking moments of reflection and growth, like praying in a Buddhist temple in Seoul, or what it means to call yourself an outsider. And although his style is consistent throughout, no two poems are the same, and that is what shocked me. What I also liked was that the collection is split into 5 sections that kind of describe that timeline of dawn, which are unknown hour, convergence, midday, dusk, and invocation hour. And sometimes with poetry there's a tendency to have these themes arbitrarily, like they don't really mean anything, but here you could tell why each poem was put into each section, and that was something that I saw and really appreciated. Why should you read the book now? So why should you read the book right now, other than the fact that it will literally blow your mind? Well, for one, it's one of the first poetry collections I could actually read before bed and then end up falling asleep after, which basically means it's a good pick up, put down, easy read, despite being poetry, which, you know, also doesn't happen a lot. There was only one word I didn't know in the collection, like, definition-wise, and that was because it was an old-fashioned word for distiller, so the language is very readable, like I said, despite it being poetry. In fact, I read a good portion of the book on a day where I had a really bad migraine and couldn't really look at screens or, you know, just function in general, but I still managed to enjoy it. It's also a really great lockdown read. So I found myself pulling out little nuggets of wisdom from these poems, which you might have seen on my Twitter, and annotating them and putting little like stars and hearts next to them, because there were so many parts of this collection and so many parts of the poems and so many lines that I needed to hear, because my mental health is not great, as I'm sure most people's have not been. And it's really helped me to pick myself up in a time where I'm getting loads of job rejections, I'm getting loads of funding rejections, and not being able to see my friends or my family or my partner. And, you know, that's what I liked about it. It's like, it's pretty small in terms of size. Like, I'm a small person and it's basically the size of my hand. Let me see if I can get a book for comparison. Let me take the Famished Road, actually. Okay, no, never mind. It's too... it's wedged in there. Okay, let me take this book, right? Okay, this is a fat book, right? It's Museum of Innocence by Orhan Pamuk. If I compare it, right, like, it's pretty small, both in terms of length and in terms of size, and that's what I liked, is that you can carry it around with you. And when I was carrying it, I mean, I haven't been anywhere because lockdown, but when I was carrying it around the house, it almost felt like a little friend that I could take with me and, you know, read a bit whenever I needed some kind of comfort. And like, I'd open it up and find a line and it would instantly speak to me and make me feel better. And I also found one of my new favourite poems in this book, which is called Everest, and I'll be reading it at the end of this video if you're interested. The time card is in the description. And finally, you should read this collection because now is a time for a new dawn. If you've been feeling uninspired or down or depressed or anxious about the state of the world, about how you're feeling, read this book and let it reignite your spark. Everest. Some visions draw us to impossible places. Visions that live in the heart of our mythologies. They pull us like ants up into white clouds at the edge of a dream. How many have perished in the storm or snow? Their tracks vanished. Whiteness obliterates the centuries. But some visions demand only snow-eaten feet, ice-broken hands. That white, stony visage disdains history. Into the abyss of its mouth, pale generations go like sleepwalkers. Sometimes a single storm blots out our elaborate plans. Civilization climbs its face, and with a breath is erased again. All dreams lead here. From this lunar elevation, everything seems clear. We must either sit still or overcome ourselves. We're the mountains we need to climb. We're our own impossible peak. Everything that we seek is dissolved by success. Only the trackless path is worth travelling on. Some dreams do draw us up, not towards any particular eminence, but to something of which this mountain is but a mysterious symbol, whose meaning eludes us and ever drives us on, drives us up, with the blinding sun in our eyes. It holds up a mirror to our fervours, our delirium, our hopes, and our need to conquer. And there we are shattered. There we are made. It is one of the forms of the divine, perplexing the riddle of distance. Is it a call to heroism or a dream of oblivion? Everyone who ascends descends into polar space, where the far is near and the near farther than Valhalla. Some visions draw us to impossible places, where breathing's a new language in the wind, where we can climb higher into the flame of the days, the flowering of the streets, the dim ritual of work, the intonation of sleep, and the clarity of home. Because one person did something vaguely unthinkable, perhaps impossible. Because one person did, others can till their fields, or leap to the moon, dance in a ring of fire, or walk treadmill incarnations towards the centre of that vast, invisible red rose. You, who climb up, and you, who sit beneath the tree, and you, who, at your desk await a vision, perhaps an enunciation, you who scratch your thoughts till your life bleeds, you, frozen in fear, or blistered in rage, singing on a vacant stage, you in poverty or in wealth. Some vision draws us on, which we must heed or not be born.